So I had a new client come to me today and she said, "You've got to get me out of my S-Corp." She had a new CPA who had set her up in an S-Corp because he said it was going to make tax sense, and within months, she wanted out of it. And let me tell you why. The S-Corp is not for everybody. This can be an unpopular opinion because we are all, usually so focused on tax savings that we're like, the S-Corp's the way to go. A few things. One, how did she get here? Clearly, the professional did not really walk through what the implications of having an S-Corp was going to entail for her. So this woman was operating as a sole proprietor. She ended up having to get a new EIN number. What's good is if you were an LLC and you got into this S election and you're like, I don't want this. This isn't worth it. Too much compliance, not worth the tax savings. The good news is you don't have to get a new EIN when you make the S election, and you don't need to change your EIN when you get rid of your S election. The other thing that was really challenging for her in the situation is because she went from having no entity type to now having a legal entity type separate from herself. She had to get a new EIN, she had to get new payroll accounts, she had to get new bank accounts, new credit card, new sales tax. Like they had her go through, and the poor lady, she's like, the CPA just kept telling me it was going to be so simple. It was going to be so easy. All I had to do was put myself on payroll. And it was not. That was not the case for her. And so, well, some people are motivated by the tax savings. Sometimes the administrative burden of managing an S-Corp, especially when you're in a sole proprietorship previous to that, it can require a lot of adopting new behaviors. She was absolutely right. You have to get on payroll when you are an S-Corp. Officers need to be compensated, and that can be kind of a gray area. So the S corporation is not a legal entity type. A lot of times people are like, no, I have an S corp. And I'm like, that's great. But do you have an LLC? And they go, no, I have an S corp. And great. You have an S election that sits on top of your legal entity. So typically you go to your state, you get a corporation or you get an LLC, and you say to the IRS, please tax me as an S corp. And now you have an S election that changes the way you're going to be taxed in your LLC or your corporation. One of the tools that I have created to help with this decision is it's just a questionnaire. It's like 10 questions, you answer it, and based on the results, it'll pop out a little email and it'll say, hey, based on your answers, maybe you should consider becoming an S Corp. Or it might be like, nope, this is probably not the right fit for you right now. Or you know what, you can't even be an S Corp if you want. I'm gonna go ahead and put a link in the comments below, and you can check that out if you want. So when you jump from a sole proprietor into an S Corp, the accounting becomes a lot more important in that we are now keeping them separate. This is your personal finances, this is the business's finances. And so the accounting system becomes really important in my mind at that point, that we want to keep the money that's in the business specifically to track the business income and expenses. And we want to really minimize any personal transactions that are floating through the books. So why the S Corp? A lot of times people are, okay, if the S Corp is going to be all of this additional work, why do I want an S Corp? And the big reason is the self-employment tax savings. When you get into an S Corp, you are then able to say, okay, out of my big bucket of earnings, let's say it's $100,000, instead of paying taxes, self-employment taxes and ordinary income taxes on that $100,000, you're now going to say, my payroll's $40,000, and the $60,000 that I'm getting from my business is ordinary income. So now the savings is the 15.3% on that 60,000. So that could be a fair amount of savings. However, you do have this additional compliance of maybe you've got Secretary of State fees. There could be an annual minimum fee in your state. There's the additional tax return. There's the cost of payroll. So you really kind of have to look back and work through the numbers and say, does this even make sense for me? And I want to caution again, even if it does make sense for you, are you willing to take on the additional administrative burden? Question mark. Only you can answer that. Now, I will say if you are not adverse to technology and you're comfortable navigating around on the computer, technology has made these tasks so simple. I am a big fan of Gusto. They have made it very simple to make these things manageable. QuickBooks Online, a hugely used platform.
So finding help on it is not going to be hard. Gusto makes it very, very simple to put yourself on payroll for not a lot in terms of monthly cost. And so it's doable, but you have to have a certain amount of tolerance and commitment to best practices before you decide to jump into it. And I hope this was helpful. Like and subscribe.